Okay, let me go to Ben Dunne. Ben Dunne, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe.
Ben, you come out of this very badly again, this report. Yourself, and I'm trying to find the actual paragraph at this stage, 2,500 pages, but I read it earlier on and it basically said yourself and Michael Lowry got together to increase the rent on a building you owned, Marlborough House up there off O'Connell Street, which was rented by Aircom, which was in the charge, so to speak, of the Minister of Communications at the time, Michael Lowry. The two of you got together to increase the rent, which would have benefited you, I think the figure, now I'll have to find it, would have benefited you by up to 9 million.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Joe, the only thing, I haven't read the report, and I just want to, just one second, I want to switch to fairness. I haven't read the report. But I do know, I think it refers to me as being corrupt.
Well, I don't know if that's the actual word. I don't know if that word actually appears in any...
Well, from what I'm told, somebody said that the word corrupt is used. Well, I done absolutely nothing wrong in any of my dealings. And I would say this to the chairman. If I done something wrong, I should be put to the place... Okay, this is what the chairman, Michael Moriarty, said about you. What was contemplated and attempted on the part of Mr. Dunne and Mr. Lowry was profoundly corrupt. Let me finish. To a degree that was nothing short of breathtaking. Well, the tribunal, just for listeners, just so I can explain it better, the tribunal found that Lowry sought to influence the outcome of an arbitration being conducted in '95 in relation to the rent payable by the tenant Marlborough House Aircom, to a company owned and controlled by Ben Dunne, in which he acquired a landlord's interest. You are profoundly corrupt. Number one, Joe, there's not a shred of evidence there. And number two, there's an onus on the tribunal, and Mr. Moriarty in particular. Before he makes it's an opinion he's giving, he should make a fully informed opinion. He didn't read my medical... He may have read them. He took no notice of my medical records. He didn't meet my psychiatrist or any of my medical team. Now, if Mr. Moriarty believes that is the case, he should be pushing to put me behind bars. But he knows that there's not a shred of evidence that would back up his opinion in a court of law. That he will be sitting on the bench or some other judge in Ireland could sit on the bench. I am not a corrupt person. And if anybody can prove that I've done anything corrupt in that Marlborough deal, or in any other deal in fact, put me where I should be, behind bars. I'm not afraid to face justice. And I think it's a bloody disgrace that a man like Mr. Moriarty, who knows that I suffer from my own personal tortures, would choose to pick on someone like me. When he hasn't got a shred of evidence. It's an opinion. And really, if he believes his report, he should be pushing the authorities, the powers to be, to make sure that Ben Dunne is put behind bars. Well, it is a flawed report. And if it's as much offline as it is about me and my character and my corrupt way of action, Mr. Chairman he is the man, I think, that has got problems. The tribunal found that Michael Lowry sought to procure unwarranted rent increases that over a 7-year period would have improperly enriched Mr. Ben Dunne, you. Joe, if the tribunal finds that, I challenge the tribunal to make sure that I am brought to the right place.
Well, are you saying to the tribunal now, send that report to the DPP?
I'm saying absolutely, yeah.
Send it to the Gardaí and the DPP.
Send it to the Gardaí and let's go into court. And let's look at the evidence in court. Now, I can tell you, and if I am corrupt, which I know I'm not, it's one man's opinion against all the evidence that I gave. I mean, it's quite interesting that when it came to the guy who gave the opinion on the granting of the license, that Moriarty decided not to take into account his memory. My medical report clearly says that because of my drug abuse and because of my mental state, that my memory couldn't be accurate. And he chooses to believe one person and doesn't choose to believe another person.
And what is your memory of that event, of the arbitration?
My memory of that event was that I phoned Lowry, the thing was up for rental review, and I knew that he knew Sherry Fitzgerald, to the best of my recollection, and I said, could you speed up the process? That was the only thing. In fact, I think that was my evidence. I haven't read it, and it's gone a long time. But I never asked Lowry to increase rents or to get increased rent. I'm not a corrupt person. I'm well able to fight my own battles for rent increases or rent decreases. I don't need ministers or anybody else. The only thing I from time to time will do is I'll ring people up to speed a process on. And I'm now saying to the chairman of the Moriarty Tribunal, Mr. Moriarty, if you believe what you put in print about Ben Dunne, make sure now that Ben Dunne is prosecuted and put behind bars, because corrupt people should be put into jail. But Moriarty hasn't got the ability to do that. He can print it. He's a flawed man with a flawed report.
When is the last time you met Michael Lowry?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe at an All-Ireland match. I'd say maybe within the last year I would have met him at least.
Did you have a conversation?
About this?
Are you pals of his?
Hold on. Did I have a conversation about this?
Yeah.
Of course I did.
What did you say?
I said he's definitely going to say the worst about you and I.
And what did Michael Lowry say? He
said, what can we do? And I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If he says it, I'm going to put myself forward and say, right, if that judge is putting in print that Ben Dunne is corrupt, now I'm going to push him now to put me into the courts, or to get the people to push me into court and prove that I'm corrupt, because he can't prove it.
And why Ben, why are you so anxious that the judge...
Because I don't like being called corrupt.
I know.
I've been in business for 62 years.
But why are you so anxious that he should have interviewed your psychiatrist or read your medical report?
Because he had to make an informed opinion, Joe. And at that stage of my life, everybody knows I attempted suicide. I was on drugs. I was very unbalanced. I was in a very, very dark place.
So
it's only recently that same judge took into account Mr. Reynolds' health. And when I brought it before his attention that he didn't take into account my medical state, he took no notice of it.
But if you say you were, whatever phrase you want to use, you were under the...
I was in a dark phase of my life.
You were in a dark phase of your life at that time. So therefore, how do you know you didn't say to Michael Lowry, let's try and dig up this rent by 9 million?
But if you want to take that, but then why should Mr. Moriarty say I'm corrupt?
Because he said, well, it was contemplated and attempted on the part of Mr. Dunne and Mr. Lowry was profoundly corrupt, because his argument is, Moriarty's argument is, that Lowry, the minister, and it's quite clear from any cursory look at the report that the minister, he's accusing the minister, very straightforward, of abusing his position for his own enrichment, which he says was a Haughey-esque type trait. Now, there's one businessman who's associated with Lowry and Haughey, and that's Ben Dunne.
Yeah, but Joe, and there's one common denominator between Haughey and Lowry, and that's drugs and my mental state. No question or doubt about it. If you speak to anybody at that stage of my life, I was a very disturbed, in dark places, using drugs. And there's a report after report written by an eminent psychiatrist in this country, which Mr. Moriarty chose to ignore. And then he turns around, and I still am under psychiatric care, and then he decides to publicly attempt to assassinate me by calling me corrupt. Well, I challenge Mr. Moriarty, if he truly believes that, make sure that file is sent to the DPP, and let's see, can he prove it, or can anybody prove that I was corrupt in my dealings at Marlborough House? And if I am, give me a long jail term. Do a lot of good for the country.
What way did the Marlborough House rent review outturn for you, Ben?
It turned out just as the man who done the rent review, I can't think of his name, it was a normal rent review.
Now, Michael Lowry comes out of this extraordinarily badly, though...
Do you know who I'm worried about? I want to tell you one thing, Joe. And I learned this since I became an addict. Worry about one person, yourself. That's what my psychiatrist keeps telling me. And you know, the other great thing he said